privileged to have in our midst important people that are going to be talking to us. Today, our facilitators in our Family Life program, we have our Zook CFO at the Zimbabwe West Union Conference. He is the Chief Financial Officer, and he is the member of Emmanuel Church. And it is safe to say he is the Family Ministries Director there. They are leaders in that church. And he comes to us with his wife, Nontokozo, who is an executive partner at PACG Company. And so he is coming to speak to us. Nontokozo Masuku is part of his worships with us at Emmanuel Church, and she is one of the Family Ministries leaders at Emmanuel Church. And so we are privileged to have them today. And so as they are clearing their throats, maybe we can hear them as they are greeting us this afternoon. I don't know whether I should honor ladies or I should honor gentlemen. I will just leave it to them, whosoever is willing to start, just to clear the throat, to hear if their voices are working properly today. Okay.
Ladies first.
Okay, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone, or morning, evening, wherever you are. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be a part of this discussion today. I guess it's a discussion. Personally, I'll speak for myself. Personally, I don't claim to be a guru in this area. I'm actually learning, and so whatever will be said today, I'm also learning. I haven't graduated, so I am really excited about a conversation, and I want to believe that we will all benefit from it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you
so much. Thank you, Pastor Dube, for the invitation. I echo sentiments of my roommate. We need to start with a disclaimer. We are here to actually share from some of our own mistakes and also share from some of the things we've learned along the journey. And also to remind people here that you are the Family Ministries Director for the West Zimbabwe Conference. So if we are coming from Emmanuel Church, we have reported to the headmaster's office this afternoon. So we are grateful to be here sharing with other families in their different forms. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our subject is one that is very important. Money, the root of evil. I put a question mark. Is it the root of all evil? We are talking finance and the family. Somebody was talking about cutting the coat according to the cloth, and as that individual was presenting, one actually shouted and said, "No, these days there is no cloth to be cut. So why talk about the cutting and later on the cloth?" And so this is a very important discussion that we are having. Why should we talk about cutting when the cloth is not there? And this is a question that I'm directing to you. Why should we talk about this? Why should we bring this subject? Maybe the cloth is not there. We say leave.
No, thank you so much, Pastor. I think I'll give it a go, and then they can add on. Maybe to start the conversation, maybe we should just define what it means to cut according to the cloth.
Mm-hmm.
So to cut according to the cloth essentially means to make plans and decisions that are based on what you have and not what you would like. So it's about what you have in your hands, what's there that is available to you, not necessarily what it is that you would like. And so I think generally we all have some kind of cloth. So no matter how small or how big this cloth is, we all have some kind of cloth. And please note, I said generally, I know some situations, some extreme situations, people really don't have any income whatsoever, but generally you will find that we do have something. It may be little, it may be small, but we've got something. So you are able to cut that coat according to the little cloth or the big cloth that you have. So if you look around, you find that there is something there out there for everyone. For different sizes of cloths and or pockets or income, there's something there for everyone. The only challenge is many of us do not want to make decisions based on what we have, but rather on what we like or what is deemed to be fashionable. So take, for example, clothing. You can shop from, I'm looking at Bulawayo, you can shop from Acres, you can shop from Power Sellers, or you can shop from Bend and Pick, Bukotama. You know, it depends on your income and what it is that you want to do. Talk about buying rice, for example. Go to Pick and Pay. You can buy Basmati or Mahatma, or you can buy Programs Value Rice or Silo. You know, you might choose to even buy SAMP instead of rice, which is cheaper. So there is something out there. Meat, for meat eaters, even meat has different grades. For schools, you know, schools, you have private schools, you have, and some are more expensive than others. You have government schools, you have boarding schools, homeschooling. So you take your pick. But the problem is many of us do not really want to pick what it is that we can afford, I included. And so that is where the challenge is. So I guess in order to be able to cut the coat according to your cloth or live within your means, people need to understand what they earn and what it is that they can afford. So you also need to be able to drop a budget, which many of us don't do. Drop a budget to determine what your income is and what your expenses are. So then live within that budget and drop a budget as a family that is include your children as well. Of course, they don't necessarily need to know all the details about, you know, what the parents earn or whatever, but you get them involved in the budgeting as well. So drop a budget, know what your expenses are, track your expenses and income, and that will help you to be able to live within your means.
Thank you. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe if I can just add, I think she's really covered that pretty well. What I wanted to say was to remind each other. I say this all the time, that I've seen instances, especially in our country, where some of us have helpers who help us at home, people we pay. I've seen situations where the landlord or the person who employs the helper every month without fail is borrowing money from the helper who is paid by you. You get what I'm trying to say. But who, and most of the time, some of these people who don't seem to earn a lot always seem to have money to borrow people who earn more, or to lend to people who earn more. So it's really a myth, the whole idea that you know, no one has anything. I've seen it. I've seen, we had a helper who, when things were difficult, she would have to go off to Lupani to sell a couple of goats to pay for shortfalls, you know, in the school fees, you know, things like that. So I've seen over and over people of humble means, but who are able to do much with you know, the little that they have. So it's possible.
It's possible. So this boils down to personal finance, which really affects family finance. And maybe I can ask a question to say, how does one's management of personal finance actually affect the financial condition in the family? You're talking about this helper.
And I think just to add on to
yeah. Okay. Okay, go ahead.
No, sorry, I just want to say to...
Yeah. There was a break. I think we lost each other.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, we did.
All right.
I just wanted to say to that, I think, you know, I'm one of the old mutual facilitators or trainers on the money. Sorry, not Old Mutual. Old Mutual has a program. It's called On the Money, and I'm one of the facilitators. And in the program, it says it's not about what you earn, but about what you burn. So really, it's not about what you earn, but about how you spend your money. Okay. So if you earn $50, make sure that you are burning, whatever it is that you're burning or spending should be within that $50. So it's not about what you earn, but it's about what you burn.
What you burn. Mm-hmm. So that's a critical point that has been raised there. It's not about what you earn, but what you burn and what you consume. And we are living in an age of consumerism, and there is a hype of getting things and the hype of finishing up the money that we have. So this boils down to, I had spoken about personal finance management. And I have a question. How does it affect the family financial condition? My personal finance management, how does it then come to affect what the family will be like financially, the outlook in the family?
Yeah, so I think how we structure our personal finances, I would say most of the time when we talk about this, we talk at a very sort of short term. We think it's to assist in the here and now. But the more I look at this area, I'm realizing that this affects generations. It affects generations, and we've seen it. We've seen how we are benefiting from decisions that were made, wise financial decisions that were made by our grandfathers, our great-grandfathers, acquisitions that they made generations before us that we are benefiting from. So while personal finance most of the time is perceived to affect the here and now, I would say that we need to be very cognizant that the decisions we make today have a bearing on generations to come, except, of course, if Jesus comes. And short term, how we spend. I mean, we've seen it. I used to, when I finished my O levels, I had a holiday job while I was waiting for my results. And I remember it was a holiday job in the industrial sites. And you'd see, like, these are fathers. Anything I got was pocket money for me. But, I was there every Wednesday or every Friday. We're buying, every day, these men would have a Coca-Cola and buy something that someone was selling, okay? On certain days, you would go to a nearby butchery and people would, buy some meat. And, the pieces of meat that were being fried, I can rest assured, could have served a family a meal. You get what I'm trying to say. But those little habits accumulated, I'm confident, burnt a hole into the respective family finances. But it seemed like small things. So I'm saying there's certain spending habits, impulsive buying, certain hobbies. And sometimes people say, no, I don't drink, I save. But there's something else that you do, that is burning a hole into your finances. The big thing that I think we need to take note of is a sense of awareness of opportunities. Lack of awareness of opportunities may mean the difference between your family moving forward financially and staying behind. And we've seen it. I mean, a few years ago in this country, here in Zimbabwe, certain people, were applying for land and things like that. 10 years on, people are selling the same land. You get what I'm trying, or at least selling access to that land that people got, for free. So I'm saying, where were all the other people? Our grandchildren will be asking, where were you when this and this was happening? Where were you when mortgages were accessible? Where were you when people were accessing certain opportunities? So to answer your question, personal finance, I think we let ourselves off the hook when we think it's an optional. No, it's a disservice to this generation, the next generation, and generations to come. So if we think of God having plans for each of us as families, having unlimited resources available, and because of our inability to access those resources, we are disappointing him. We are shortchanging a God that wants us, to succeed by not being organized. So I would say you're right if you're bringing this down to personal financial management. It's true, but I think it goes way beyond what we realize. This is generational, and it's if it's not done correctly, it's really shortchanging the plans that God has for our families.
And I think to kind of bring it closer home, about 20-something of us in this room today, in this meeting today, and all of us have different backgrounds, different upbringings, and the reason why our lives may have turned out the way they have turned out, it's a lot of it has to do with the decisions that our guardians or our parents made when we're young. Some of us may have had better opportunities in terms of schooling, or lived in better areas, or whatever it is, and it boils down to the decisions. Many times it boils down to the decisions that our parents made when they were, as we were children, as we were growing. So I guess when you look at it that way, you really realize, you have that awareness of how impactful our personal decisions can be in terms of, our children and generations to come as well.
I don't seem to see the pastor. Is he still on the call? You're on mute.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I'd muted myself. I'm hearing, as you are speaking, I'm hearing some form of generational poverty that's created by some carelessness on the part of an individual that has decided, I'm going to be careless in how I treat my finances, and then that affects the family. And so how can we then help our children in understanding the importance of financial management? How can we inculcate this into our children? What are some of the solutions that you can provide that can actually help our children so that we can maybe break this generational, for lack of a better phrase, generational poverty that has been passed on because of how we manage finances? So what are the things that we can really help our children with in that regard?
Okay, maybe I'll start off with a quote from Adventist Home. It's actually page 386. So Ellen White says, when very young, children should be educated to read, write, to understand figures, to keep their own accounts. Okay. So I think as parents, really, it's our duty to train up our children, from the time they're young, give them this awareness of the value of money and how to use money. And I think it's not just about telling them, but it's about practicing what we preach. Children learn better when they see their parents practicing things and doing things. So I think that's the starting point. We need to be good examples to our children so that when they see us, they learn from us. So for example, as a parent, we need to make children be aware of the fact that all our wealth comes from God. The source of all wealth is God. So when you buy groceries, or when you get your income at the end of the day, or when you go shopping, whatever it is, come back home and come together as a family and thank God for that gift, so that children are aware of the fact that God is the giver of all wealth. And I think that's the starting point. And also now getting children involved. I think really it's about sitting down with the children. I know many times it may not really be something that is in our culture, But I think our generation, it may be easier than maybe when we were growing up. But for example, come together with your children. It could be once a week or something where you just come together and share as a family. So go over your family finances, discuss plans or assign chores for responsibilities. And that helps children to learn or get into the habit of planning and recording things. So you could even establish some minimum standards, for example, and come up with a chart to say, you know, keep your bed, your room clean, your clothes clean, or whatever it is, and you mark and measure progress. So children get into the habit of measuring progress and planning things. So I think that is one thing that we need to start inculcating in our children. And also another thing I also want to call, because I found Adventist Home very helpful in this regard. She says children are not to be carried along and supplied with money as if they were an inexhaustible supply from which they could draw to gratify every supposed need. You know, sometimes you grow up, you know, maybe you grow up in a family where you were poor, you didn't get much from your parents, but now you've made it in life and you feel like you are obliged to just keep giving your child. If they want a sucker, you give them that. If they want this, you give them. You are just giving and giving. And we end up bringing up children who are spoiled, who don't really understand the value of money. You know, at the click of a button, they just ask for whatever and they get it. And that is not a good habit to, you know, for your children to have. They need to be able to understand that you need to work for your money. They need to understand that you will not always get what you want. You know, so it's not about your wants. It should be about, okay, what do you need? Do I really need this now? If not, then maybe we can do without. So teach your children to learn to do without and to you know, to understand that money does not necessarily come that easily. And then also in terms of working for your money, I know some of us, you know, we have gotten into we say, oh, we give our children money, say for chores that they will do in the house, or, you know, if they pass at school, we'll give you money. If we do this, we'll give you money. If you do that, you give you money, which is okay. But I think you've got to be able to draw the line in that children also, if you, for example, you're giving your children an allowance, they should know that, okay, what I have at my disposal is, say, $50, and be able to plan, particularly as they grow older. They should be able to plan for that money to say, okay, this $50 needs to cover my bus fare, needs to cover my this, needs to cover my that. But if they are given money or not given money because of punishment, then they don't know what it is that they're getting, you know, this week or this month. But there's got to be some element of knowing what is there and how it is that they can spend it. And I think one that I'll close with is, and children must also understand and practice 3 major money uses. That is, they need to learn to give, they need to learn how to save, and they need to know how to spend and spend well. And knowing that God is the giver of all gifts and money, they should know that God expects them to spend their money wisely, because it's something that God has given them. It's not theirs, they're just stewards, and it's their responsibility to ensure that they spend it wisely. Lastly, sorry, actually, children, I think also in our culture, many times we don't involve children. Like, for example, you are running a business, we don't really involve our children in our businesses. But in some cultures, children start, you know, being involved in the family business at a very young age, or get children to start running their own little businesses. Like, for example, my husband and I have encouraged our children to run a small little business project, or whatever you want to call it, where they are selling cookies and biscuits. So for prices and everything, please see me after Sabbath. But so they, you know, they've come up with this thing. So we looked at them and we thought, okay, this is where their gifting is. They seem to enjoy cooking and creating stuff. So come up with a little business. And with that, they are learning that it's not easy. Money doesn't come easy. They, you know, when they don't have any customers, like, but no, there are no customers, what's going on? And then you have to think, okay, so what do you need to do to get those customers? Or they're learning how to not only understand that they need to work for their money. They also understand that they need to be creative. They also need to think about, problem solving skills. So if they have a challenge in the kitchen, the cookies are burnt, what are you supposed to do? How can you, you need to think outside the box and be able to solve these problems. So those are things that I think as parents, we need to encourage our children to start doing at a very young age.
Beautiful. Thank you for those the points that you brought there. Speaking about the 3 uses of money: give, save, and spend. Maybe before I go to the next question, and I may be having something to add in that direction.
No, I think she covered it. Maybe let's hop on. But I'd seen a comment here from one of my Umfumbe Swami here. Okay. I notice he seems to be on this call too. I think the key thing is that it can be taught. All these skills can be taught, and the younger our children are when they are taught, the better. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. In one of the suggestions here on spending money, there is the aspect of saving. Maybe let's talk about it in this kind of environment that we are in. It is a vital element that we are talking about, but how can it be done as a family, considering the environment that we are in, talking about saving?
Yeah, you preempted it well in terms of the environment that we're in. We're in an environment where people saved and lost a lot of money. And then after 2008, they got confidence again. They tried to get some confidence. They've saved and they've lost it again. So I think what we can say is the traditional way of saving, the textbook way of putting your money into the account, may not always work, as we've seen. But what is certain, and I'll give an example. Every now and then I to look more like for some project that we run. And what has struck me every single time is that I'm now fully convinced that the people out there understand the concept of saving more than those of us who are supposed to be educated in town. And you find that ugogo, umama, when it's time to sell, she knows when to sell. She knows the value of, izinyani and, keeping it. So I'm saying when we talk of saving, let's sort of move away from, let's think of the most basic way of saving. I mean, even a chicken is saving, a chicken that you give your aunt ekaya to buy a few for you, and then you check on her after 2 months how many are still there and so on. That to me, that's saving in this environment. If you have a bit more, buy a goat, buy 2. If you want something low maintenance, sheep, in some of these areas. I know people think sheep are problematic. If you have sensible, more money, buy goats, or even buy stock. Buy goods that people can buy airtime. You know what I mean? But whatever it is, buy something that can hold value. And when we talk of saving, let's not talk big amounts. Let's start from where we are. If you are putting aside $5 a month, I'm telling you, 10 months from now, you'll realize that it's something. You get what I'm saying? If you can afford 50, if you can afford 500, all those are things that we can do. In our setting, I know some people, I don't know what you call it in a skill, these groups where someone is getting paid this month and then you give it to someone else next month. Those are other ways of saving. In fact, I know that certain banks actually recognize some of these groupings. So let's not look down on the small things, because those small things can actually accumulate and be meaningful. I can't tell you the number of people who've educated children on the back of, seemingly useless things that they sell, So I would say in our context, let's look for things that that can hold value, and we won't be prescriptive, but I'm just giving examples of things where anything that can store value. Someone's saying, "I'm Italy," okay, in the comments. Anything that can store value, whatever that is for you, make sure you are putting something aside for a rainy day. I don't know, Nontokozo, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I think I also wanted to add that, when we talk about saving, many of us think, I will save once I have covered this, and that. But as we all know, once you have done this, and that, there's nothing to save. So really, when it comes to saving, you need to save first, put something aside first before you do this, and that. So if, for example, you want to start saving or putting money aside, the first thing that you need to do is, after you've tithed your money, decide that, okay, every month, or whether there's every week or whenever you get income, I am going to set aside, say, $20. And then you put that $20 aside, whether that $20, you're going to use it to buy chicks, or you're going to put it in, in US dollars or whatever it is, put that aside. And then everything else comes after that. So if it means for that week or that month, you're not going to have chicken, for example, for supper, you're going to have isichalalombida instead, do that. Or if it means you're not going to buy mazoe, do that. But at the end of the day, put the money first, save the money first and not last, because you will never have anything afterwards. So I think that's a change of mindset, where we think saving is about what is left. No, it's actually should be intentional and do it before you start spending on anything.
Okay. So I'm hearing a kind of a progression in how when money comes, there is something that we should do first, and there is something that we should do next. And then we do other things when these two principal issues have been dealt with. We give to God, we then save, but then maybe the reverse is true in our case, because we begin by spending, and then maybe we continue with spending, and then the third thing will be spending, the fourth thing will be spending, and then the fifth thing will be spending. We spend. And I'm thinking to myself, there are times of adversity that come, and when those times of adversity come, we then need to have a fallback plan. And I'm thinking, being sensitive on this issue, I'm thinking of cases where there is a single income from a widowed individual, for example. Maybe what are some of the creative ways that can be used in helping this individual to manage limited resources? Maybe it's a child-headed family, or it's a widowed individual that has very minimum income. Maybe they used to have maybe it was a double income, but now it's a single income. So how can we help those individuals to transition from a double income to a single income?
Okay, no, thank you so much for that question. And I think when you look at where we are today, particularly in our economy in Zimbabwe, many of us are in that situation. Some may not be widowed, but because of COVID or whatever other circumstances, a spouse may have lost their job, and so you're only living on one income if you're lucky. So I think a lot of this will probably apply to many of us. And I think first of all, it's about praying for wisdom. I think you really need to ask God to help you, to be able to pray for wisdom, to know how to spread that dollar so that you are able to buy wisely, and it pushes through the month or two. So I think that's the first thing. And then the next one, I think, is to live within your means. And I know this is so hard. I know that. It's so hard to live within your means, but you have to live within your means. You need that discipline to live within your means. So going back to budgeting, it becomes even more crucial to do that. Budget, prioritize your expenses. Know that, okay, this is priority. I have to pay rent, for example, if you're paying rent. I have to pay school fees. That's important. I may not, some of the things that I want may not necessarily be things I need. So you need to be able to establish that. And then try and use cash as much as possible and avoid credit. Don't get into credit, particularly if it's to do with buying, going into credit, into debt, because you want to buy perishables like food. It doesn't make sense, really. So if you're going to go into debt, it should be something that will help you to grow, maybe grow your business. For example, you're going in, you are getting into debt. Maybe you want to buy, I don't know, super cools, just one example, to sell so that you get some form of income. So avoid debt at all costs. And then buy quality rather than quantity. I'll give you an example. I think it must have been about 11 or 12 years ago. My husband and I bought a fridge, and it was a second-hand fridge, okay, but a quality fridge. To this day, that fridge is still running, and it's running very efficiently. And my children always marvel at the fact that the fridge is older than them. So they always say, this fridge is older than us. I'm like, that fridge is older than you, and it is still working and it's still running. So buy quality, even if it means a second-hand fridge. And even if it means a second-hand goods, even in terms of clothing, buy quality rather than quantity. If it means buying quality and it's second-hand, it means you go Kotama to go and buy something of quality that will last you, for longer than going to, say, Chinatown to buy a new T-shirt that will only last 2 weeks. It becomes more expensive in the long run. So buy quality, because sometimes cheap is expensive. And also make it a habit to do a grocery list. Don't, avoid impulsive buying. So make a grocery list so that when you go to the shops, you're buying cooking oil, flour, this, tick the boxes and go out. Don't look around for other things that you don't need. You may want them, but you don't need them. Just have a grocery list and stick to it. And also simple things like planning your meals. Meal plans, then you know that, okay, for this is what I need. I need potatoes for this week, I need cabbage, and keep your meals simple. Just keep them simple but nutritional, and stick to them. And use your leftovers. Many times when things are left over, we throw our food away. But the things that you could do, you could make rolls, you could make different things from your leftovers. Those are simple things like that. And when you're buying as well, maybe go and buy at the market. Instead of buying vegetables at Pick and Pay, go straight to the market and buy, because it will be cheaper. And electricity, Zimbabwe is always telling us about how we need to switch off our geysers, switch off your lights. Those are things that we just need to be aware of, and make sure that we are switching off the geyser when we don't need to switch off the lights. That helps with reducing your expenses. And have your own garden where you have your own green vegetables, your own tomatoes outside, so that it's less expensive for you. So really, there are so many things that, if you really sit down and think about, you are able to kind of cut costs. Lunch at work, you could take leftovers from supper instead of buying every day. You get a lunchbox, get your sandwiches, get your rice from yesterday, and that cuts down on costs. So ask yourself, do I really need this? Have I thought through this purchase? Don't just buy things that you don't need, that you are not a necessity. Think through some of these things before you purchase.
Thank you for sharing that one. Maybe now you may continue.
Yes, no, I think she's covered quite a bit of ground. What I wanted to say, maybe to also speak to the question about where circumstances have changed. You see the example you gave of someone who's just lost a spouse, and things have changed. I think a lot of the times when our circumstances change, we don't communicate. So for instance, if we had debt, and things have changed, we need to engage those we owe, to kind of say, okay, look, my circumstances have changed. How can you change my terms? How can you adjust my terms? Come up with payment plans. So in other words, the whole idea of not putting your head in the sand, but actually being aware of your situation. The communication element is key. People are always willing to assist, but sometimes because we are not proactive to actually address some of our issues and say, no, it doesn't work like that. Let's engage, let's manage our debt, let's engage those we owe. I just thought I'd add to that.
Okay. That's a very important thing that you have highlighted there. We need some prudence when circumstances change, communicating about that issue. Now, this brings me to a thought. How can we prepare for times of adversity? We drove into times of adversity unknowingly, and now here we are. Should we come out of these situations and then maybe be in a better environment? How should we prepare for such times of adversities as families?
I think as families, as Zimbabweans, we've learned that we can live on very little. From the stuff that we've gone through, we've actually realized that we can actually survive on very little. Things we didn't think we could survive on, we are surviving on them. Meaning to say, when the good times come, we need to remain low maintenance, and that's one of the things that I think could be a solution for times of adversity. Let's pack light. Let's be accustomed to living simple lives that are easy to maintain, so that when circumstances change, we don't feel that bump too much. I'm not saying that we should live as paupers all the time, but let's pack light. The other thing is to also look into emergency funds. And by the way, if you keep your lifestyle simple, it means that when you do get a windfall, you don't change your lifestyle. You continue your simple lifestyle, but you are now building up reserves, so that when the time comes where you are required to dig deep, you can not only utilize that for gain, but you've got room to absorb some of these punches that life sends your way. And by the way, when you build up reserves, it also means you can actually invest in certain things. I mean, I won't say much. I won't go into too many details, but at around about 2011, an opportunity came to invest. I know some of us are in a similar scheme. I won't name us all, but where we put in a small amount of resource into land that has exploded in value. You get what I'm trying to say. So, and that came because at that time, we were just coming out of 2009, things were still rough, but saw the need to actually invest in something that could scale. And those are things that people should do. Pack light, but keep your eyes open for opportunities that can increase your capacity financially, and also plan for retirement. I see this. I mean, it's very sad. People who've lived their whole lives, and then retirement creeps upon them, as if people were not aware that one day they would be old. Let's plan for it. We may have young people on this call who think retirement is a far-fetched reality. It creeps up on you so fast. I mean, just the other day, we were talking about it as a family. We are technically 17, 18 years away from retirement. And you need to make those decisions. Build a home ekaya, where there are no rates, where there are no taxes, rentals. I know people, when at the height of the lockdown last year, people were sending their families ekaya. You get what I'm trying to say? Where they had already built their things there, children could survive. And that's how people got through this. So let's look for all these opportunities. Let's wake up to the fact that when trouble strikes, it's you and trouble. And it's not time to be keeping up with the Mtetwas and the Matubegos. You get what I'm trying to say? I won't say the Joneses. We don't have Joneses these days. But the point is, when trouble comes, it's you and trouble.
Okay.
So let's plan. Let's pack light. Let's be, low maintenance, and let's be open to opportunities. God will bless us.
Thank you. Thank you for.
And by the way, there are some good comments in the
chat.
there's some good comments as we're going along. Yeah. In the chat. Yeah, but I see our time is also moving.
Yeah, maybe for the sake of those who are on Facebook, I'll just read one or two of them, and then we continue. Restructuring of personal statement of comprehensive income in this era, where the pandemic has affected family income, may include identifying the cost centers in the household and revise the spending patterns. For example, relook at your water bill, check on the dripping taps, leaking pipes, practice smart agric for veggies, and for those who are in town, food bill, organic food is good. Cut on luxuries, yogurt and eating out, cash power token, switch to lights in other switch off, I think switch off lights in other rooms, geyser monitoring, avoid boiling water for bathing and washing of the plates. So that's very, very important. These are some of the comments that are there. We'll come back to them when time allows us. And I'm looking at the things that needlessly reduce income. What could be some of those things that needlessly reduce the income that we have? And
I think Nontokozo spoke to some of them earlier on. Things like packed lunches. I used to work with a guy from Pakistan, from a business background. His family had a lot of businesses, but he came every day. He never bought a single thing at lunchtime. He brought his packed lunch, he'd take it to the microwave and warm it. And he had the best lunch every day, the healthiest lunch compared to people who were buying lunch. Nontokozo spoke about impulse buying, no planning whatsoever, no system to how we spend. And I think in other I've given an example of an $11 pizza being the same price as a bag of cement. You get what I'm trying to say? If you have a plan, if you know what you're trying to do over a longer period of time, it's easier to hold back on the $11 pizza and direct that money towards a bag of cement, because of what what the family plan is. Things like airtime. I mean, let's get on to bundles that can save us money, that can get us through the month. Is that call necessary? Can you not text? Can you not send a WhatsApp? I think she also spoke about quality goods. My brother and sister-in-law recently returned from the UK with a sweater. They gave me a sweater that's similar to one that I had, but that I'd had for the last 13 years. And it's like she was saying, a quality sweater, but I've never seen the need to replace it in 13 years. But at the time, it seemed like it was pricier than most. But so the whole idea of buying quality goods. So, but I think key is mindset, not having goals, not knowing what to do with your money, not being able to come together as families and coming up with a desired future, for the family that we can all go towards. And by the way, earlier on, someone might be listening and say, these guys are promoting poverty. We are saying, pack light. But in packing light and being able to manage your resources, it unlocks other resources that can then allow you to actually upgrade your quality of living, upgrade your standard of living. So that's the whole idea behind what we're saying.
Yeah. I'm kind of hearing some delayed gratification that comes with this, because you are saying you can eat now or you can eat later on. I read some articles some time ago that spoke about how money actually operates. I'll speak as a layman in this regard because I'm not a medical doctor, but this individual was saying money tickles the places that are tickled by the drugs that make you high. And so if it is like that, it means prudence is necessary. Some planning before the money comes is very important. And it is actually going to help us so that when this drug takes us high, we are in a position to kind of slow down. So the toughest thing can be downscaling in difficult times. Can we discuss about a downscaling? Maybe giving examples.
I don't know if Nontokozo, do you want to take that or should I?
Please go ahead. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. So I think when you're saying downscaling, I'm assuming you mean downsizing.
Downsizing
from one.
There's something that
okay.
you're looking at.
Yeah. I think the key thing. Yeah.
I mean,
yes. So I would say, yeah. Sorry, come again. There's a delay. Sorry, in when you speak.
Okay, I was saying, and now there's something that I'm looking forward to that I should do in the future. I'm delaying my gratification, and I want to downscale so that I can achieve a certain thing in the future. So maybe we can talk about that, because some people may actually need that kind of guidance to say, how can we, maybe giving examples in that direction. Yeah.
Okay, no, I get you now. And I think that comes from what we've been saying earlier. Maybe you've got someone who's spending at a certain level and they now need to adjust their lifestyle to maybe what is perceived to be a lower standard of living, but for the purpose of managing their finances. And I would say for families that need to do this, one of the key things is communicating as families. If you're a father who is realizing that we're losing a lot of money in this area, we need to actually downsize our vehicle, for example. That's something that took place with us as well. Don't do it alone. Don't come and say, surprise, guys, I've sold the car. This is the new car. You know, I mean, that won't be very sustainable, and you won't get buy-in with the family. But if you sit down with the family and say, guys, this is our situation, would you believe, because we have this asset, it's costing us this. If we were to get this asset, we would save on this, and then you sell the benefits. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But our families are reasonable at the best of times, and they would understand that. And by the way, let's not leave out our children when we do things like this, because I mean, we've seen it from the pandemic. Kids have been hard hit. You know, so many things have changed. School coming at the wrong time, and everything that they are used to seems to be shifting. And now you are bringing downsizing as well. You know, so I'm saying I think the key thing is to bring everybody on board. Let's not leave out the children. Let's engage, even when it comes to needing. If you are living in a house that you know, you want to sell it and buy a smaller house, or you're renting a certain house which is costing you more, and you need to rent a smaller house. Same thing. Discuss, communicate. Share, sell the benefits, and it also helps everybody to focus. And I think someone was talking about things like lights and things like that, you know, where once you have that mindset, everybody is then aware of where they need to save, where they need, where and children can even can suggest solutions that you may not even be aware of, or members of the family. And I think so. The key thing is communicate, have a clear goal, understand the benefits that come with the process of downsizing.
And I think just to add on to that, one of the problems, I think, is to add on to what Nda is saying, is many times we don't plan ahead. It's more of the now and the gratification now. But it says where there is no vision, what happens? Where there's no vision, people perish.
Yeah.
And many times we don't have that as families. We just food from hand to mouth. I want the pizza now, I want this now, but we don't really think of the future. So I think when it comes to issues to do with downsizing, if you have a vision and you have a goal and you're working towards that as a family, and you believe that it will be of benefit to everyone, then it's easier to come together and say, okay, guys, we can sacrifice and let's do this, because at the end of the day, there is a benefit. So really, I encourage all of us to kind of sit down and set goals for ourselves in life, whether it's career goals, whether it's as a family, you want to buy this, but let's set goals, and that will help you as you move forward. The pain, it may not feel as painful, because downsizing can really be painful sometimes. But if you know that what you're working towards is a benefit at the end of the day, then it makes it so much easier to do.
Actually, there's a very good question on the chat. If I can just quickly address it.
Okay, that's fine.
Is that okay?
That's okay.
Yes, someone is saying, I'm for saving, absolutely. But I think we should balance between saving for an uncertain future and adding value to family time in the certain now, e.g. holiday and eating out. Are these luxuries in the family's experiences or luxuries? I didn't quite get the last part, but it's a valid question. And what I would say is, I think we're not saying throw away the quality, throw away the value. I think what we're saying is, if, for instance, it was a family tradition that every year we went to Victoria Falls, to the Kingdom or Elephant Hills, and spent anything to say 1,500 a year. But we can now do the same annual vacation, and we go to the chalets at Maleme for a fraction of that. So those are, that's the sort of kind of thing we were talking about, where the monetary element is trimmed, but the value, the time that you spend with your family is still valued. I'm telling you, some of the most fulfilling birthdays I've had, where my kids have treated me, have been in the backyard, where they take, a cloth and put it on the lawn, and we have a picnic in our own backyard. Those are the memories. You get what I'm trying to say? But they don't cost anything like this. So we are all for the memories. We're all for quality of living. We're all for the family relationships. But we are saying, let them not be done at the expense of poor financial planning and indiscriminate spending.
Beautiful. I think this calls for a necessary balance in this regard. Our time is moving faster than I thought, but just allow me to pick a few of these comments that I hear, and then I will take it back to the panelists. We should never be, someone sent a direct message, we should never be embarrassed in cutting the cloth to size when circumstances change. We should never hold on to costly things, expenditures, when the income has reduced. It's costly running fossil fuel cars in Zimbabwe. Hybrid automobiles may be the answer, and this is in the long run. Solar power, or being off-grid. This is a comment that's coming, and those of you who are on Facebook may miss this one. Let me just read it. At times, our major undoing is not having a shared vision as a family. If a mother is to buy a plot and the father and the children don't share the vision, that's when it's most easy to see families spending 200 on eating instead of laying that money aside to buy a plot. And as Nda said, communication is key in getting a shared vision as a family. It's always easy to save if we have a shared vision. I think, and then I think these are the comments that we are having. Having these comments, I just want to say we are so grateful that we have heard these contributions. Maybe there could be some questions and comments. You may drop them in the chat room, in the chat there, so that at least we can respond to them. And for those who are on Facebook, you can do the same thing for the coming minutes, where we will hand the questions to our facilitators. Whilst we are waiting for the questions, anything that you have to say, Elder Nda and Nonto, you can feel free to add to that.
I wanted to say something.
Yes.
The other day, somebody said, when we were talking about issues to do with money and income, she said, I try and use everything in my house to make money for me. And she gave an example of the fridge. She says, I have a fridge, but I make that fridge work for me. So she says, what I do in my community is I buy and sell drinks. So she says, I get drinks, or I get super cools, put them in the fridge, and I sell them. So that fridge in there is not just there for show, or for, to make my water cold, but it's actually making money for me. So I think we also need to look around our houses and think, okay, what do I have, in my hands? What can I use that will enable me to make a little bit of money? Even if it's just $10, $10 makes a big difference. So I think we kind of need to use a different lens when we're looking around the things that we have in our houses. What can I use? Can I use my garden to make money for me? Can I use my fridge to make money for me? Can I use my hands to bake and make money for me? So let's look around and open our eyes and see what it is that we have that we can actually use to help us to make a little bit more income for ourselves.
Yes. Yes, maybe just to add to that, to say, I would say my parting words here would be to say, God did not make a mistake. God did not wire us for poverty. God did not create us with some people meant, to be able to be productive, and others to fail. I mean, we've seen the parable of the talents. Meaning to say, I think sometimes the biggest challenge we have is that we're kind of looking outward to see what other people are doing, and not taking an inventory of what God has done with us, what God has built into us, what God has gifted us to do. Because for the most part, those are the things that we can be most productive in. And even for those who think, I'll say everybody on this call, if you are to log off and take an inventory of what God has supplied, like what Nontokozo says, what is in your hands? Mm-hmm. And all of us, we have a rural home. What can we do there? All of us have a network. What can I get out of that network? All of us have a place, a community, things that differ from person to person. How can we use those things to be productive, to move us forward? Don't get me started on this one. But I mean, Paul was one of the most enterprising people we knew, and that community of Christians were making tents. They were commercially switched on. And even Sister White, in Australia, if you look at how she set up, facilities there with an entrepreneurial mindset. God is a productive God. God is a God of increase. God is a God who expects us to be productive. So I would say, let's take an inventory. Let's task God to show us what he can do to make us more productive, to live within our means, and to be an example to our families. of what he can do through us.
Beautiful. Thank you for those wonderful, wonderful words. I will give 5 to 10 minutes for those who are on the call. You can kindly unmute yourself. I hope deactivated that. Okay, you can kindly unmute yourself if you have, or raise your hand, and then you can add your comment or your question at this moment in time before we wind our discussion that we've been having. So if you're there and you want to add something, this is your time. This is your time.
Pastor, I've got my Mfumbesi on this call.
Okay.
Marvin Kabula,
Okay.
he's hiding in the participants. We sharpen each other a lot. I've learned a lot from him.
All right.
He can't go without saying something.
Let me ask him to unmute. He should say something. Marvin. All right.
I was just having my lunch, so apologies. I think
no problem.
it is a very am I locked on?
Yes.
Yeah. I think what's been discussed, what's been discussed this afternoon is of paramount importance. We cannot ignore some of the nuggets that have been shared by Nda and Nonto as well. They're very, very important. But what's important, I think, in the paradigm in Zim is understanding that even in difficult times, God still provides in difficult times. And in fact, he still expects us to be the heads, not to be the tails, even in adversity. Okay. And trusting in God, being able to give as well is always a conduit for receiving blessings in difficult times. You know, usually when things are difficult, people think that, look, you know, I'm already in a very tight situation. How can I give? But being faithful to God, even in tricky situations, still God continues to open ways and channels for us to be able to survive. But also working hard. I think, you know, the situation, again, not only just in Zim, I mean, where I am in the UK here at the moment, where the pandemic has also hit us badly and businesses have shut down, people are just giving up on life. And some people who have lost jobs and people have not, they're just not seeing the reason to live. But understanding that even in difficult times, God still allows the rain to come our way. He still allows us to be able to sow on the ground and be able to reap and trusting that God provides. But ultimately, though, when it comes to personal finance, I think personal finance budgeting is something that can be taught. And there's always a reason why it's not taught in schools. It's because when people know how to manage their own personal finances, they become powerful and they're able to make decisions that take them to the next level. So I say that, look, you know, if you can team up with people that know how to manage money, you actually can piggyback and learn from them. If you can team up with people that know how to invest, you hear that, you know, the most powerful businessmen don't know it all, but they find people that add value in various spheres of influence in life. And that's what we're supposed to do. So if I know that there's a guy down the road who's very good in farming cabbages and a small little plate and doing very well, there's something to learn from them. And if there's someone who's very good in rearing a livestock, like what Nda was saying, for various projects where he goes to Gwanda and buying some small livestock, there's lessons to be learned. And I think in Zim, we've learned as well that, you know, people in the rural or communal areas, actually, that's where the money is. You know, people know how to live in little. And I think cutting the cloth accordingly is a very good thing. And where we can hedge money in small items that will always retain value and gain value is always ideal, as opposed to maybe putting loads of cash in the bank and then tomorrow the value has gone down, then you're in a situation again. So that's what I'll possibly want to add.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for that comment. There's a comment from Facebook here that alludes to something similar that you have said. It's from Dube. He actually says this is the order that we are supposed to we are supposed to tithe, and then we give offerings, and then we have investments, and then we spend wisely what is remaining. And that is very, very important. That's very, very important. I don't want to close anyone out. If there is no one who has a comment or a question, I will wind the meeting and take this time to thank our facilitators who were sharing from the book of experience. As I was discussing with them before we came to the call, I said to them, you have this a book of experience, which is very important in providing a financial guidance, because we learn from our own mistakes, we learn from what we have done wrong, and experience is the greatest teacher. He first disciplines and then he educates, and we are grateful that they have taken us this far. And may this information be helpful to us, and may God bless you. Blessings to the Masuku family for taking their time to speak to us and share these wonderful gems that are going to be helpful in our lives. And let us apply this, because this information, some of us need to pay dearly to get such information, but it has come to us at a very lowered cost, and we praise God for that. I see my Malume here on the call. If he can unmute himself and say one word and then pray. Pastor Mhlope, I see you here. If you are in a position where you can unmute yourself and say one word, and then we close this meeting with, you close the meeting with a word of prayer.
Greetings, dear friends. Do you get me?
Yes, yes, you are clear.
I concur with everything that has been said. Ufumbesi Gamzala Unda from the UK, and both what Ndai and Nontokozo said. I don't think we need to add any more, except that, you know, learning, it's only meaningful when we try to apply some of the things we learn. The discussion was sweet and nice, but it will not be fruitful unless we try to implement these things in our lives. Having said that, I say I appreciate everything that you gentlemen have done. Shall we bow our heads as a team and pray? Our most gracious and loving Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for who you are. We want to thank you for the meaningful discussion we have had this afternoon, a discussion that is tailored to assist families so that we can lead meaningful lives. We can also enjoy the means that you have bestowed on us as families. Help us, dear Lord, that these means should be a blessing, not a curse to us. We should also remember to always remember that you must be first in everything that we do. May your name be praised. Thank you for affording us an opportunity like this. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Thank you.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Bless the Lord. All right.